Hey folks, Sean McInnes here at Gamescom 2010 in Cologne, Germany, and I am joined by none other than Warren Spector, who's currently working on Epic Mickey over at Junction Point Studios. Warren, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. It's good to be here.
So, Warren, earlier in the week I had the pleasure of seeing your GDC Europe panel where you talked about, how video games can draw inspiration from other media out there. So I was wondering, specifically how it relates to Epic Mickey. When you first started on this project, what other forms of classic media did you look at to, draw inspiration? Obviously, classic animation was probably one of the big ones, right?
Oh yeah, everybody on the team has to become an expert in all things Mickey. So we've all watched all the Mickey cartoons, all the Oswald cartoons. We've had lunches where we watch Alice in Wonderland and Peter Pan and all the classic Disney animated features. So watching all those cartoons was huge. Plus a bunch of documentaries about the creation of Disneyland. We've poured through the archives, so it's not just about the finished product for us. It's a lot about all the things that went into making up that product. So having access to model sheets and background paintings and concept art, that was all important too.
You also made some interesting points about how it's not always movies or television that you can draw inspiration from. It's things like radio and even oral storytelling, which I thought was really interesting. How did you look at those things for Epic Mickey?
Well, sound is critically important to all games, but the more iconic your characters are and the more abstract your worlds are, the more important sound becomes. So the audio department is really working some overtime and doing some great work. We have to have a way of communicating emotion without all of the detail of a human face. So audio, hugely important. And the oral storytelling thing is something that I've sort of felt in my gut for a long time, and I've just started to study it. I think that was apparent in my talk. I didn't quite get into the details on that one, but someday, a year or two from now, I'm really going to understand that and be able to give you a much better answer on how oral storytelling contributes to game development. But I know it does, and it's sort of subconsciously informing everything we do, I'm sure.
So, in addition to some of those other points that you made about media, one of my favorite points that you made during that GDC Europe panel was that, video games are sort of at their best when they're not just telling the story that they came up with. It's more of a dialogue between the game and the player, and the end result is sort of a combination between the two of them. Can you talk about how that relates to Epic Mickey in terms of how you sort of shape this world around you, the decisions that the player makes, and how it leaves an impact on the world of the Wasteland?
Sure. Every game I've done, including Epic Mickey, is about players showing how creative they are. I never want to tell players, here's what you're going to do, here's how you're going to do it, here's when you're going to do it, and here's why. I think the only one of those that really belongs to guys like me is the why. I think, storytellers, professional storytellers are pretty good at explaining why an action is important or significant. But we should, in games at least, let players decide for themselves how they're going to approach the problems we create. In Epic Mickey, it's the same sort of thing. I mean, you can decide who to befriend and who not to befriend. You can decide when you're going to fight and when you're going to try to make allies. You can decide whether you're going to take on a mission or not. And once you go on a mission, how you're going to solve that mission. So all of that adds up to the minute-to-minute experience of the game and the way the world looks when you get done with it, and how each NPC's story ends up. That all belongs to the player. And so I think that's kind of what makes games, and really the fundamental thing that makes us different. We all talk about interactivity, but I think it's more than that. It's about players being creative. We gave Mickey a paintbrush. I mean, what could be more creative than that?
Now, that sense of creativity and choice is something that we've seen a lot in role-playing games and even role-playing shooters like, Deus Ex, a little game some people might have heard of before. But it's not something that we've seen in the sort of action platformer genre that Mickey seems to fall in. Was it a daunting task implementing that sort of system into a genre that we really haven't seen a lot of before?
Well, making the decision to introduce player choice into a platform action adventure role-playing game, that was easy. That was one of my starting points for the project. I really wanted to say, hey, can we actually give players choice in a platformer? Ooh, that's kind of a neat idea. Actually doing it was really, really hard. I mean, if I'd known how hard it was going to be, I might have been daunted at the beginning, but no, it was an easy decision. I mean, it seemed like both the platform and action adventure games you kind of needed a little design goose. You know, they needed a little bit of something new, and so I thought I could bring that choice and consequence thing to genres that I think could really benefit.
Well, Warren, obviously I was very fascinated by the GDC Europe panel, so I could just keep chatting your ear off all day long, but you're a busy man. You've got to get to other appointments and keep working on Epic Mickey, so I'll end it here. But thank you very much for your time, and one last question for you. When is Epic Mickey going to be out in stores?
Disney Epic Mickey will be available holiday 2010. That's all we're saying right now.
All right, thanks a lot, Warren.
Sure, my pleasure.
All right, guys, that's your look at Epic Mickey. Stay tuned for more Gamescom coverage coming over the next few days.